Hey there, so today I want to talk to you about or help you with acid reflux. You know, so many people are going through life really struggling with this on a daily basis, and they're resorting to things like omeprazole or any other PPI, and also any sort of antacids. And also they're going through life with many other symptoms that they don't realize are actually associated with this acid reflux, and it can cause a whole host of problems, from your hair falling out to skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis. It can cause havoc with your immune system and feeling like you're sort of getting all sorts of colds and flu on a consistent basis. It can cause a whole host of problems, and what I want to do is really help you with that today by enabling you to understand what's behind it and what's causing it, and also give you some solutions as well. So if we start up here with the stomach, okay, what we've got is two valves. We've got one valve at the top near the esophagus, and we've got one valve down below near the small intestine. Now the top one prevents acid and food regurgitating through the esophagus, and the bottom one actually prevents sort of whole food going down into the small intestine, and it also prevents bile coming back up. Okay, so bile coming back up can be just as detrimental as acid can be coming up through the esophagus, because it actually weakens that mucus layer in the esophagus and can be just as painful. But both of these valves, both the valve at the top and the bottom, both of them are controlled by the autonomic nervous system. Now what that tells us is that this autonomic nervous system is highly influenced by stress, and you'll be able to sort of look back through your life where you've had high stress, maybe that's now or in the past, and you'll be able to associate all sorts of gastrointestinal issues with that period in your life. Okay, so this is why we end up with digestive issues during stress. Okay, so now this bottom valve here, like I said, this prevents food going into the small intestine. We don't want whole food particles going down there. We want nutrients going down there so that the villi can reach out, pick them up, and pull them into the body where they're needed. Okay, but damage can occur or prevent this valve working correctly by too much belly fat. The belly fat, or the visceral fat, the fat that's in and around the organs, creates pressure in and around this area, causing this valve to not work correctly. You've also got hiatal hernia. Hiatal hernias can cause problems with this lower valve. And also, if you have a gallbladder problem, then this can also have a huge impact on this lower valve. Okay, now if you do have a gallbladder issue, then I recommend you take some purified bile salts to help with that. Okay, so that's what's going on here. All right, but when it comes to this upper valve is where most people are experiencing the problems. And that's because we have receptors in this top valve for something called hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is the acid that's in your stomach that's there to break down the chemical bonds within that food and turn it into nutrients so that the small intestine can take them in via the villi that's down there. Okay, so we've got receptors in there. All right, so when you have an optimum level of hydrochloric acid in your stomach, the valve has the receptors, and therefore it can sense that you've got the correct amount of hydrochloric acid in your stomach, and therefore close to prevent acid going up into the esophagus, which is obviously where you would experience acid reflux. Okay, but if we have not enough hydrochloric acid or a weak pH within that stomach acid, then the valve doesn't close properly. That's essential. So what we're saying is that because that valve is also controlled by the nervous system, okay, and the fact that it has receptors for hydrochloric acid on that valve, if we're not producing enough hydrochloric acid, then the valve won't close properly, and therefore we get acid reflux. So that tells you that actually the acid reflux isn't that you're producing too much hydrochloric acid, it's that you're not producing enough. And the way that we don't produce enough hydrochloric acid, among many other reasons, okay, but predominantly it's the stress which is lowering the hydrochloric acid production in the stomach. And therefore what we end up with is undigested food within the stomach. We experience acid reflux because there's not enough, because the valve is open. And therefore we get gas and bloating, okay, in and around this area, and also constipation and other digestive issues because the food isn't getting broken down at all. Okay, so, and obviously if the food isn't getting broken down correctly, then we're going to experience nutrient deficiencies. And if we're experiencing nutrient deficiencies, then our hair, skin, and all other systems within the body isn't receiving the nutrients, and we can feel tired, sluggish, moody because the brain isn't receiving the nutrients. Okay, our skin will deteriorate, it become thin and dry. We can end up with eczema and psoriasis. The hair isn't receiving nutrients, okay? But so just because you're eating the food, it doesn't mean that it's getting broken down into the nutrients so that you can then absorb it, so that you can then have a positive effect on the rest of the systems within the body. This is why when we can rectify this, many of our other problems, which normally get treated as individual problems, we can actually begin to change all of those individual problems by addressing one singular thing. Okay? So, having enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach is incredibly important, and it's incredibly important because you also have intestinal hormones produced by the pancreas and also the small intestine. So all of those hormones are going to be negatively affected within your body. Also enzymes, okay, you've got enzymes within your stomach, okay, and what we need to do is make sure that they work correctly to your benefit, but they don't work correctly if the pH, okay, is all wrong within the stomach. Now also, interestingly, hydrochloric acid prepares vitamin B12 and folate for absorption. Now, if you know someone or you are experiencing a B12 deficiency and you're eating meat or you're taking vitamin B12, then this goes to tell you that it's probably that you're not taking enough vitamin B12 or getting enough vitamin B12 in your diet. It's actually down to the fact that you have a low hydrochloric acid production. So if you were to rectify this, you can radically improve your vitamin B12 absorption. It's something I find all of the time with people that are B12 deficient, and being B12 deficient is not something that you want to have. You can have a very, very low mood, and it's going to affect your nervous system as well. Okay, so if you're B12 deficient or struggling there, then obviously this is something for you. Hydrochloric acid helps the absorption of calcium, magnesium, zinc, potassium, and iron. Now, obviously, when it comes to magnesium and zinc, you know, due to over farming and crop rotation and the processing of foods, most of us are deficient in magnesium, which is the third most abundant mineral in the body. And obviously that's going to have a negative impact on your sleep and your, you know, if you've got restless leg syndrome, you're not going to be able to put that to bed. All right. So Therefore, improving your hydrochloric acid production within your stomach is going to improve your absorption of those minerals. But one thing I find predominantly amongst women is a lack of iron. People who are not able to get their iron levels up. So this, despite you taking iron, radically trying to improve your iron absorption and your iron levels, what you can do is work on your hydrochloric acid levels to improve the absorption of the iron that you're taking in, and therefore rectify that problem in another way. We've also got hydrochloric acid preventing something called SIBO and pathogens. If you're experiencing something called SIBO, which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth, then optimizing your hydrochloric acid levels can radically improve this as well. And also pathogens. We want the hydrochloric acid to kill off the detrimental pathogens and keep the good pathogens which are good for you. Okay, so we don't want that. And obviously SIBO, we want bacteria to grow in the large intestine, not the small intestine. So with small intestine bacterial overgrowth, that is caused by a underproduction of hydrochloric acid in your stomach, and therefore that's obviously going to be detrimental. So you can, rather than going through all of these diets and programs which are going to try and help you to get over SIBO, you can supplement, or like I'm going to take you through, ways to improve your hydrochloric acid production and prevent SIBO and pathogens. And also hydrochloric acid is vital in preventing allergies. So what happens is that when you've got a low hydrochloric acid in the stomach, what's happening is that your proteins aren't getting broken down properly. You know, a protein is just a chain of amino acids, and the hydrochloric acid within the stomach breaks the chemical bonds between those amino acids and allows your small intestine to grab hold of the amino acids and pull them into the body. You're not meant to absorb whole proteins into your body. So if you are, what happens is those proteins enter into your body, and then the immune system is activated, and that will cause serious problems within the body. So that can help prevent any sort of allergies within the body. So as I've written here, what causes this underproduction of hydrochloric acid? Well, predominantly we've got stress, and that's something we've radically got to take a look at. You know, the stresses or the stressors won't necessarily go away, and if we're waiting for them to go away, then they're normally followed by 10 more. Okay, so we need to change our perception of those things. When we change the way we look at things, things we look at change. So we can always begin to look for the positive, or know that in hindsight, normally these things actually work out very easily, so we can actually have foresight in the beginning to know that these things will work out in the end. But I do plenty of videos and articles and posts all about stress and how to reduce it. If you know you've got a known elephant in the room, then I would work on that as soon as possible to reduce that stress. We've got low chlorides. So if you're following a low salt diet, then that's going to cause you to underproduce hydrochloric acid. Now, I don't recommend that you start chowing down on table salt. Okay, that stuff is devoid of all minerals. But if we can start salting our food with the correct type of salt that we're supposed to have, which is Himalayan pink salt or Celtic sea salt, you know, salt should be pink, grey or beige. Yes, you've got like things like the Malden sea salt and things like that, but they're actually still not as beneficial, because they only contain a small part of the 72 nutrients that are in normal salt. We can have the 84 or 85 nutrients that are, or minerals that are in those salts. And isn't it interesting that we actually give pink Himalayan salt to farm animals and horses to improve their health? That goes to tell you something about the type of salt that we should be having. Okay, and also interestingly, if you are high stress, normally you have a high salt craving and you reach for the ready salted crisps expecting that to improve the situation. Actually, it's not going to. Okay, so to be able to turn off that salt craving when you're a high stress individual and you have adrenal fatigue, then reach for the correct salt that we should be having, which is pink, grey or beige, predominantly Himalayan pink salt and Celtic sea salt. Okay, to help heal those adrenals. We've also got a low potassium. Potassium is vital in the production of hydrochloric acid. All right, so that can weaken your hydrochloric acid production. We've also got, funnily enough, we've got medications and interestingly antacids, which you're taking to prevent this acid reflux, are actually worsening the problem. They're actually making this hydrochloric acid production even less, so it's actually worsening. Although it's going to relieve the symptoms in the short term, in the long term that's going to make it worse. And also PPIs, omeprazole. Omeprazole is going to actually worsen the problem over time. Interestingly, you'll know that if you take omeprazole, you're pretty much always on it. And the things that actually make this worse, all right, is that if you're high stress, low chloride, low potassium, and you're taking these medications to help prevent it, what can worsen the effect of this is continuing to have gluten, to have grains, to have sugar, and omega-6s. Omega-6s are in everything. They're all in all of your processed foods. And then we go and cook with these seed oils and vegetable oils, and that's actually worsening the problem. So remember, gluten, grains, sugar, omega-6 obviously is going to make this whole situation worse. So what do we do about it? Let me give you some pointers in how to start to rectify this problem for you. Well, the first one is to take Betaine Hcl. Now, you can get this pretty much anywhere, all right? And you want a nice high strength one, and that is betaine, B-E-T-A-I-N-E, Betaine Hcl, okay? And you want to be taking that sort of just before you have your meal or halfway through your meal. And normally I recommend for most individuals to take 1 to 2 capsules halfway through your meal or before, to help you to begin to absorb many more nutrients, because many people are low in hydrochloric acid, and that's going to have a positive effect across your body, obviously, as you've seen. But if you are experiencing acid reflux, then I recommend that you might actually, to be able to see the benefit, you might actually need to be having 5, 6 or 7 of these prior to your meal. All right, and one thing that you can add to that is taking apple cider vinegar. A tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before you start your meal. But you can't just have any old apple cider vinegar. You want to be having apple cider vinegar that is contains the mother, and it will say that on the front of the pot. Basically, it's a very cloudy one, and it contains the mother, which is all of the probiotics. Now, that should radically improve all of your symptoms, absolutely everything. But if you find out that it's actually worsening the problem, then that means that you could have an ulcer or gastritis. All right, so if that's the case while you're doing this, then what you need to do is actually begin to heal the whole area and reduce the inflammation down there. And you can do that by taking chlorophyll or organic wheatgrass powder, all right, on a daily basis. But if that's not you, then you'll experience a radical improvement with all of your gastric issues and all of the other symptoms, including the acid reflux. Okay, the next thing is cabbage and sauerkraut. If you wanted one vegetable that's going to radically improve it that you can add to your diet, then cabbage is it. Sauerkraut also, not the one that you get from the supermarket, the ones that are pasteurized, because that's going to take all the benefits out. You want a sauerkraut that's not been pasteurized, or learn to make it at home very, very cheaply and very simply. Fourth one is that you need to reduce the stress. I won't bang on about this one, but this one is the one which is really causing the main problem. This is the one that's causing the acid reflux and causing you to underproduce that hydrochloric acid in the stomach, which is causing the valve to remain open, which is causing acid to come up through the esophagus. So you definitely need to work on your stress, and like I said, plenty of posts and videos that I do on that. The next one is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting for 16 hours a day, including your sleep the night before, allows you to, it allows your gut this time of repair. Without food coming in all of the time, it allows this window of opportunity for your body to start repairing the gut, all right? And it can really help. All of this stuff really is at the time of filming this. I've got an app due out very soon. If you're watching this later on past the date, then I've got an app coming out with all of your fitness, all of your nutrition recipes, meditations, everything to help you overcome stress and help you to lose weight. There's so many things in there. Okay, so look out for that one. We've got vitamin D. Vitamin D you can start supplementing with about 5,000 IU per day. There's a brand which I use which is called Puori, P-U-O-R-I, D3, and that will help you to with the production of calcium and the absorption of calcium. Calcium is involved in the contraction of muscle, and with this valve being a muscle, it's going to contract and relax. Okay, so we want it to contract properly so that it closes properly, and most people aren't deficient in calcium. So what people are deficient in is vitamin D3. So if you take vitamin D3, that's going to help with the closing of this valve via the calcium pathway. Next one is Zinc L-Carnosine. Okay, Zinc L-Carnosine is a supplement that you can take, and that's going to help you with ulcers, GERD, acid reflux, gastritis, and basically any inflamed or inflammation that's going on in the gut. That one can radically help. And also, lastly, you've got a probiotic. So a probiotic will help you with the lower end of the gut, and that's going to help you digest the food down in that lower part, which also helps with the upper valve as well, because they work together. It's one system. All right, so hopefully now you understand acid reflux. Hopefully you understand the benefits of having optimum levels of hydrochloric acid, and what can actually cause that hydrochloric acid to lower, so that you can begin to take action on that, and also all of the steps that you can take to begin to reverse this. So I hope it's been helpful. Drop a comment below this video to let me know that it's been helpful, and also please, if you know someone that's experiencing acid reflux and they really need to get over it, then please share this video with them as well. And I'll see you again in another video. If you have any questions that you want answering in video, post those comments below and I'll do my best to help you with those, and I'll see you in another video.